Alright, so one of my favourite ever records, and probably, top 3 Bowie records of all time, is Hunky Dory, which I first heard at a house party when I was drinking way underage at a friend called Fraser, and we went to one of the back rooms with a bunch of my friends and we put this on an actual record player, the first time I'd ever touched one, dropped the needle, and it was lush. And then that sort of was how my love affair with Bowie in general began, and how I got into a lot of his music after only hearing, a couple of singles at other parties before then. But in my opinion, it is one of his best. The track list is insane for the most part. The amount of tunes he's packed on here is awesome, and it has one of the all-time great album closers in the Bewley Brothers. It's so spooky and good. But the one that does stand out is Andy Warhol, which in itself isn't too bad of a tune, because you've got these great and odd synth bleep bloop beats in the background. You've got Bowie clarifying how you actually pronounce the name Warhol to his producer, because for some reason he doesn't know. But the issue is that while the song itself is technically all right, the lyrics and the entire kind of vibe of it is off, because Bowie in himself is sort of this, obviously he's confident, he's a shapeshifter, he tries his new personas, he is, kind of like the image of a celebrity, he's larger than life. And yet on this he kind of comes across as a bit of a beg. He's talking about Andy Warhol trying to win his favor, talking about how good he is, and it comes across as a little strange and a little weird. And apparently Bowie showed this song to the artist, Warhol himself, and didn't ever know whether or not he liked it. And in my opinion, you can kind of see why he wouldn't. I don't think I would like it if someone wrote a song called, Josh Brown about me in the same vein, because it's a little weird, and it feels like a first draft, something you do in your bedroom but not put on a record. And apparently it wasn't, it wasn't written by Bowie, it was written for someone else, and then he took it on and made it his own. But still, it's odd. And this album has also got a song for Bob Dylan, which is much better, much less beggy, and it's just a weird spot on an album that is otherwise, in my opinion, perfect. It doesn't ruin it, doesn't make it bad, but I'm certainly skipping it every single time it comes on, apart from if I want a good laugh.
So the track I'm going to talk about here, I wouldn't necessarily say it ruins the album, because it's a very small part of the album, but okay, Notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die, one of the best albums ever in any genre, I think. It was really important to me in getting into hip-hop in the first place. It was one of the very first albums I properly dived into, and it's crammed from start to finish with classics, although the best Biggie song, Kick in the Door, is not on that album. Controversial opinion. Anyway, you probably know what I'm talking about here. If you've ever heard Ready to Die, it's the F Me interlude. Man, I don't come to a high-level hip-hop album because I want to hear Christopher Wallace simulating sex with Lil' Kim. It's just a really unpleasant, awkward listening experience, particularly if you're playing the album in the room with someone else who's never heard it before. You might have that thing playing away, you got a few songs, you're like, this is banging, blah, 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 and then there's literal banging on it, and it's the worst thing ever. I never, in a million years, under no circumstances, want to hear the Notorious B.I.G. shagging, okay? Christopher Wallace, man, you gave us a lot of great stuff before you passed away. This wasn't it.
So I didn't think that this question would actually be that hard to answer, but it turns out it was really, really difficult, because when you start to analyse an album that you think, in your opinion, is perfect, and you see it for the mistakes that it has, you start to doubt whether it's actually perfect or not. And so upon that theory, I decided to listen to Fleetwood Mac's Rumours, Out of the Blue by Electric Light Orchestra, and The White Album by the Beatles. And I listened to all of them back to back before shooting this, and I realised that there was only one skippable song in those 70 or so songs that I listened to, and that one is the Beatles' Wild Honey Pie. Good lord, that is an awful song. There is absolutely no reason why it's on there. It's the 5th song on the album, so you've got before that Back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, the God-given gift that is Obla Di Obla Da, and then Wild Honey Pie, and it's just such a bad song. It sounds like Paul got the others into a room and just said, you know what, lads, hit anything, just make a noise, and what we'll do is we'll pie off one of George's songs and we'll put this on instead. And it sounds just, I don't know why they did it. So like on the playlists that I've got with all the Beatles songs and stuff, that's just not there. It just skips that one. It just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And it kind of spoils the album if you think that it's included on the album, but if you don't include it in any of your playlists, then that song is just gone, which is, stunning stuff. Shout out to Revolution number 9, because that is kind of the hot favourite as a skippable song in the Beatles' discography. But nah, Wild Honey Pie is much, much worse than that, because it's just
Now, I've had a big old think for what song ruins an otherwise perfect album, and I have peered through my Spotify and iTunes of yore and had a good old look and think, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm not going to give you an answer. I'm not going to give you a straight answer for this. I'm going to come and tell you to stop living your life by albums, because then they can't be ruined. You can't have a song that ruins a perfect album if the perfect album is never constructed fully in the first place by shuffling all of your music. If you like an artist, just shuffle it all. That's what I do. I never listen to an album in order. I just shuffle everything. It's surprising. It's exciting. I listen to new stuff all the time that comes from their back catalogue I never thought I'd hear before. It's just a wonderful time. So you know what? You'll never be disappointed if you just shuffle all of your music. Like me, a smart, interesting, wonderful person with a great taste in music, etc., etc. Essentially, I'm just here to be the ruinous force in this Chatty Faces. So, hey, it gets meta. It gets meta. First it was songs that ruin albums, now it's people that ruin otherwise interesting videos. You're welcome, guys. Doing my job from afar still. Ruining from afar, that is. That's my job. I'm sorry.
Alright, so Kanye West is, whatever you might think about him, the absolute Kanye best. Forget the Kanye rest, we are hashtag Kanye blessed. Brush your teeth with Kanye crest. The man is a genius when it comes to the creative arts, and yeah, everybody goes, Kanye West, he's a joke, he's ridiculous, he comes out with some absurd patter, he is a living meme. However, every single time the guy takes a gamble on something creatively, it usually comes off because he's just really, really, really good. And it annoys me you have to preface anything about him by saying all this, but you do, because whenever people hear that name, they go, etc., etc. Anyway, I digress. The album Graduation is probably after My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, the best one he ever did. And it's great, it's almost flawless all the way through. It's like influenced so much about modern music. It was so ahead of its time at the time. But right smack bang in the middle of it, I think, is a song called Drunk and Hot Girls. And every time I listen to that, I for a second think, do you know what it is? Maybe little old me, I could have been a multi-platinum selling billionaire recording artist with a wife with a bum this big. Maybe it could have been me, because this just sounds like something that was written on the back of a tab packet and recorded through a phone. Like, the sample is good, but the way it's him and Mos Def, and it's just all a mess, and the lyrics are as like lazy and as problematic as the title Drunk and Hot Girls makes them sound. It sounds in part, the way it's structured, it sounds in part like some kind of old pub sea shanty that's been given an ironic, futuristic makeover. Look in the club, look what we got up here, it's some drunken hot girls. It's dog eggs, I hate it. It's one of the worst things the guy's ever done, and he put it right in the middle of one of the best things he's ever done, because there's nothing more Kanye than doing that. I hate this song. You will never ever catch me in my life reaching for skip quicker than when that comes on. Bad.
So, a song that ruined an otherwise perfect album for me was probably Blood on the Black Parade album, My Chemical Romance. And it's because it just doesn't seem to fit. It was an album that just every single song is incredible. Obviously, it's the Black Parade. It's like a pinnacle of emo punk music, and it was one of those albums that just completely converted a lot of people. It kind of was the reason that people became these emo punk rocker people, me being one of them. It kind of converted me into one of these little emo girls. And My Chemical Romance, it was just the height of their music. It was just, everything about it was brilliant. And then when you get to the end, there's this bonus track or a hidden track, which isn't really hidden because it is on the actual album. And it is called Blood. It's just the most random song. It doesn't make any sense with the rest of the album. It's kind of seems like it's just chucked in there for no reason, and it's kind of got this really old-fashioned show tunesy kind of feel to it. It's very upbeat, which is, you know, nice and everything, and it's just so out of place. And it's one of those ones where an album, you want to listen from start to finish to every single song and you want to enjoy it. You don't want to get to that point where you get to that last song and you're sat in the car and you're like, where's the music? Like, what's it? It says that we're on the last track, yet there's no music playing. So you're sitting there, and then out of the blue, this music starts playing, and you're just all looking at each other like, what is this? What is this song? What was he thinking? It's just the most random thing, and it just doesn't fit with the rest of the album at all. And so for that, it completely kind of ruined it. You know, you'll happily listen to the Black Parade and other songs on the album, but you almost don't want to physically play the album as a whole because you're just dreading that last bit. And that's not what an album should be. It should be enjoyed start to finish and not have to be skipping over songs or getting to that last bit where you're just like, oh God, just turn it off. Like, yeah, this is that crap song. Nobody wants to hear this. Like, turn that off. It's just, yeah, it's such a great album, and I will never not be angry about that. And that's why it ruined it for me. So, yeah. What were you thinking?
So for my one for this, it's something that lines up with a sentiment shared by the frontman himself. It's Metallica, and the song is Escape. It's from Ride the Lightning. Now, I adore Ride the Lightning. It's my favourite Metallica album by a country mile, to be honest. And the song Escape was something that they initially wrote, obviously, back when the album came out. But the lyrics are just the thing that even James Hetfield himself, it took him 30 years to play this song live. They eventually did it at their 30th year anniversary. They finally put it out there. And even then, when he was performing it, the lead into the song, he was asking the audience, do you want this song? Because they were doing full album playthroughs. And even then he was kind of half arguing with Lars the drummer and Kirk Hammett the guitarist, just sort of joking on about like the reality of, oh my God, I'm going to have to sing this. And I don't think he's dove that much into the songwriting process from back in the day, but the lyrics are very much teenage angst, the song. It feels like Bullet for My Valentine took this one song and just made it their entire career, where it's, life's for my own, to live my own way, and all that kind of thing. And, you can say whatever you want about the way Metallica went over the years, the load, reload, Garage Inc. days, the big cigars and the Hawaiian shirts and the cut hair and everything else. That whole 90s period, which was a big old fun time. But at the same time, if you go back to that Ride the Lightning song, everything else on that album is absolutely blisteringly stellar. And I can go with Escape. I like the solo in it. But it's just not on the same caliber. It's not Fight Fire with Fire. It's not Fade to Black. It's not Creepin' Death. It's not that thing. And it doesn't necessarily feel like they churned it out to make an album, amount of songs to make an album. They weren't that band. But at the same time, there's a reason you can tell why Hetfield doesn't like it. And it tends to be the one that a lot of people skip over because it just doesn't sit with that other company anywhere near as well. So maybe a potentially controversial thing, although, like I said, because of the legacy this song has across the last 30 plus years, it tends to be the one go-to song that's like, oh, that initial run of those 4 albums, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All, that is one of the best, probably the best run in heavy metal history. It's that whole idea of not a single bad song. And it isn't a bad song, but if you're holding everything else up, then Escape kind of sticks out.
Which song spoils an otherwise perfect album? There's only one answer for me. Well, there's probably several. But this one in particular stands out an absolute mile. And for it, you have to go all the way back to the 70s, and specifically 1979, and even more specifically, this album, AC/DC's Highway to Hell, which is an absolute classic of the hard rock genre, and is arguably AC/DC's finest work. There are people who will say that the follow-up with Brian Johnson, Back in Black, is the better album. It's all good, we can enjoy them all! But this one changed hard rock forever, and it sort of changed AC/DC forever as well. It catapulted them into success in a major, major way. And it's more than its title track, which is Highway to Hell, which is AC/DC's most famous song, of course. But there are other great songs on this album, like Girls Got Rhythm, Touch Too Much, If You Want Blood, You've Got It. They're all great, but there is one that is very, very much problematic. And I mean that in the very real way. It's the final track on the album. It's Night Prowler. You may know this if you're an AC/DC fan, but it's one of the most controversial rock songs, one of the most controversial songs of all time, because it's about a stalker / serial killer / other worse things possibly, who is singing to his victim and basically saying, you better watch out because I'm gonna get you. But it's sung as a sort of like lascivious love song, as if it's a man not just going after his prey, but like after his like sexual target, let's say. And it's really, really profoundly disturbing. I can't read the lyrics out because I would either get cancelled or this video would be demonetized. It's that bad. In terms of the quality of the song, it's not a bad put together song, let's say, but it's completely spoiled by the fact that it's about this subject, and it was rather notoriously linked with the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez serial killer case in America, which just adds an even more unpleasant footnote to it. And it's just such a shame that you have this entirely brilliant album, and it goes all the way through 9 tracks of greatness, and it gets to number 10, and the band that you usually expect to just be singing about their willies and how funny that is, to then go in, like, switch into turn it up to 11 and sing about this Night Prowler. It's not right, and it spoils the album.